Soccer under construction here on Morning Kickaround. We've got two updates of projects we're tracking. First to Northwest Arkansas, as Ozark United kind of came out with a little bit of a press release talking about where they are in the development. And they are saying it's not a delay, it's a timeline reset there.
Yeah, I mean, that's massaging the the language of this thing. I don't know. I want to give all of these projects the benefit of the doubt, right?
Oh, yeah,
because
we want them to happen.
We are talking about difficult things. Like, it is tough to launch a pro sports enterprise, a pro soccer team in a place like Northwest Arkansas. And I don't want to be one of those judgy people's like, well, why'd you even try? What are you talking about? Northwest Arkansas? What are you even doing? No, look, we talked to Chris Martinovich on the show. I don't remember when we did that interview, Rob. It's been a minute, right? It's been a minute since we had Chris on the show. And, they outlined, he didn't say this is all going to be easy or everything's going to go exactly as we planned it. Or, he didn't say any of those things. He just said, we have a plan. We'd like to do this, or we're growing. He mentioned the growth in population in that part of the country largely because Walmart is based in Bentonville, which is part of this region. So I don't want to be too judgy, but let's just, again, look at the timeline here. When the club first launched, the target was to begin play in 2026.
Ambitious.
Club co-founder Chris Martinovich acknowledges the timeline was ambitious, but remains confident in the long-term plan. Quote, we made the best projections we could with the information we had at the time, but community interest grew so quickly that our initial site became too small almost overnight. This is, again, saying, actually, this is good because we had a problem because so many people were interested in pro soccer in Northwest Arkansas that we had to reset our plan on stadium size. Pivoting to a larger site allowed us to think bigger, which ultimately serves the community better. But that means they have to find money to do this, Rob, right? They have to find a developer. They have to get somebody to step in. You can be like, oh, we got so much interest that we need a bigger stadium. But if you are not actually making, if you're not got shovels in the ground, all of this is just speculation. All of this is just dreaming at this point. None of it feels very real.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces in the puzzle. Obviously not an easy project, but they have the people, the management and part of the group, and then they've got some land that they like. But and the part of the press release, when it says the realistic path forward, it shows the part that is missing from the scenario. Quote, our focus is on finalizing the ownership group and development partners who will make this a long-term success story. And what does that say? There's a major funding still needed to make the plan a reality here.
Yeah, that's part of the issue, right? All right. So look, Ozark has a hiccup. There's a good article on this, a long, detailed article on this over at NWA Daily, if you want to go read up. I know we got one more to get to here on Soccer Under Construction.
Yeah, that's a good resource, NWA Daily. And then in similar tense, and someone already went into the chat, Buffalo USL's project with a reassurance that they are still moving forward, not too far apart from the Ozark update, is basically saying we're still on track for 2027. Just bear with us. We are still pushing forward is kind of a paraphrasing that I'd use for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I pulled just one part of this story over at the bizjournals.com, Buffalo Business First. I thought this was interesting because they outline some of the delays here. They had a stadium site picked out. There were some chemical issues, fumes in the air because it was next to a plant, PVS Chemicals facility. The PVS Chemicals company didn't want them to build this. So then they had to move. They don't have a site yet announced. It's kind of radio silence here, right? Pete Marlett Jr., who we had on the show, I think a couple different times. Certainly we interviewed him, around the idea of that original stadium site. He says they still are confident that they can play in 2027. They want to build a modular stadium, and they think they can get that done in 8 months. And if necessary, it can be done in 4 months. That is super ambitious. That is a lot of promises that are going to be difficult to keep. I clipped this part because it reads, news broke in 2024 that Morlet had secured the rights to bring a USL Championship team to Western New York. And then here are the main tasks we'll take to make it happen based on the USL standard. That's how it's written in the piece. And then you can read them on screen. It involves the principal ownership. It involves a stadium lease. It involves governing documents. I mean, a lot of this, though, is really passed through US soccer. Right? These are professional league standards things. So what's interesting to me is that this was included in this piece. Now, maybe they just pulled again, it says USL standards. I just thought that was interesting because, again, we're talking about the big plans that USL has around their 3-division setup and promotion and relegation, Rob. And I just thought it was maybe a little bit of information towards where we are headed when it comes to requirements for some of these clubs.